what point in your life did you decide you wanted to be in the military?
I view it like this. If I serve when my body is young and able and I can move, then later on when I'm an old man and somebody else is serving, then I've done my part, because there are currently old men out there that can't serve. So now is my time.
As a layperson, right? Let's just assume I didn't know anything. Why would my family need a will or a trust?
Unfortunately, everybody's going to pass away at some point, right?
Yeah.
So we have the option of doing nothing and then retroactively after they pass, figure out what do we do with their stuff, right? If you think about it from a capitalist perspective, it'd be a great business model for me. I'd get to charge them for the will. I get to charge them for the first spouse's probate, and I get to charge them for the second spouse's probate. I get to charge them 3 times. I just don't think that that's right as far as that goes.
Yeah,
so
I agree. Hey guys, welcome back to More Than a Mortgage. The entire reason that this podcast exists is to tell the stories of people in our industry, oftentimes real estate, oftentimes financial industry, service providers. And what we really want to do is humanize their stories, right? Because we're more than real estate agents. We're more than mortgage brokers. We're more than CPAs and financial advisors. I've got the pleasure of hosting Andrew Johnson today. Andrew's an estate planning attorney. And again, we want to showcase his story. We want to give him the opportunity to share who he is and what he loves, what he's passionate about, maybe why he's in the industry that he's in. And we want to create valuable content for you as the guest. So anyway, Andrew, super excited for you to be here joining us today. Thanks for taking time out of your schedule to be here.
Well, thank you for having me.
You're a busy guy for sure. And we appreciate it.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm going to kick it off with just a quick icebreaker here. You're not prepped for this question.
Nope.
It won't be a hard one, I promise.
Okay.
And then hopefully we'll just kind of smooth sailing from here. All right. But work aside, right? So this is work, right? Sometimes we get to do really fun things for work. This is the most fun thing that I get to do for work. But work aside, if you were not working today, what would you be doing on a 62-degree day in December?
I would be in the mountains where there's no cell phone signal, no possibility of getting a phone call or an email, and force myself to relax and just enjoy time with the family. Hopefully a hike, something up in the high altitude to where you're huffing and puffing. And
nice.
And it's just a nice view. If you're above the clouds and you can see all the mountain peaks until the sky, just kind of dims them out, that is awesome. The place to be.
I love that. What's your favorite location for that?
I really like up above Riggins, because the trees are just so sparse up there. You can actually see out over the forest and out. McCall's beautiful, but sometimes the trees just block it where you can't see, just miles and miles. And the Riggins area is just so steep that you have to earn the hike.
I love it.
And so, I like that area of Idaho.
Well, thanks for the recommendation. I've actually never been to Riggins before.
Oh, when you're climbing the mountain, you can touch it while you're walking up it. That's the angle. And you have to really want to be at the top of the mountain to be at the top of the mountain.
That's awesome. And that's the Salmon River up there, right?
Yeah, the Little Salmon area.
Okay, cool. And I think there's something called Time Zone Bridge. Is that right?
Yeah. As soon as you go above Riggins, you crest from our mountain time zone over into the Pacific time zone. Even though you're going vertically, you're going time zone widthwise.
Yeah, classic Idaho, having 2 time zones, but not east-west, ironically, right?
Yeah.
North-south.
Yeah.
Crazy. Well, hey, thanks again for being here. Thanks for kind of breaking the ice there with us. Man, I love that picture. I love being in the mountains as well. Usually I'd prefer to be on a snowboard or skis depending on the conditions, but it's December 10th and we have largely no snow in our mountains at all.
I know.
And I think close to record-breaking temperatures today, which for those of us who like to play golf, that's kind of cool.
Right.
Or
people who procrastinated on doing their home chores outside, that they need to get something done, like putting a tarp over the camper. I'm guilty of.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's awesome. We had a really good conversation. There's a funny story, actually, how we met. I thought it'd be fun to share.
Yes.
Unless you want to share it.
No, go ahead. And I'll chime in on my perspective of it.
Yeah. So one of the things we do in this business is try to have annual reviews with all of our past clients. And ironically, I had an annual review with a customer of mine, a client of mine that had relocated to Southeast Colorado. Mm-hmm. And small world, it was a mutual client of yours, right? And I had no idea that was the case. In my financial kind of gap discovery conversation with this gal, I just kind of have a script that I run through. And one of those is, hey, we're all going to die at some point. It's a really morbid question and I hate to break it to you. But are you prepared for that? Do you have a will or a trust, right? And do you have life insurance and all those things? And so we got to talking and she mentioned, well, actually I do have a will and a trust. And ironically, she said it's actually with a guy that's out of Meridian, Idaho. And you're actually now in Boise, Idaho, but same difference. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh, interesting. I said, I've got one estate planning attorney, business partner of mine, but certainly looking to add another one. And I said, who is it? Because if she doesn't need a referral to somebody, I always want to ask if they're a 9 or a 10 on the scale of 1 to 10, like maybe can I get an intro, right?
Right.
And so that's what I did. I asked her and she highly recommended you of all things. And then I think it was then within a day or two of that interaction happening, I asked her to make a warm introduction and she did. So group email with you, me, and her. And we were off to the races, right? No big deal. We were going to schedule some time to get together. And then another mutual client, or not client, another mutual friend of ours, business partner in this industry, a guy named Jacob, a financial advisor. He happened to be hosting an event downtown Boise within that same kind of week time period, right?
Yeah.
So you and I are trading emails on whatever day of the week it was. And then we go both attend this event at Chandler's, very nice restaurant. And it was a fun event. I think that was super value added, but we happened to be sitting across the table from each other.
Yeah, absolutely ironic. Out of the room of 30 people or however many were in there, we're sitting across from each other.
Yeah. Talk about small world.
Yeah.
And we'd never met each other. We'd never had a conversation on the phone. And I look over and I see your name tag, because that was a nice thing about name tags is, hey, you don't have to remember somebody's name and you can call them by name. It said Andrew Johnson. And I was like, were we emailing each other today? And you're like, you looked at my name tag and yeah, evidently we were.
Yeah. And this was a silent conversation, because at the time that we had just sat down and they are introducing the host and the guest speaker, and they're saying basically what the schedule is for the evening and everything. And we're trying to be respectful, not like talk, but like, hey, and so it's like, eye contact, like, we've been emailing, and it's like, yeah. And I'm going through my whole head and I'm like, Gavin. I'm like, yeah, I have been emailing him. What am I emailing him about? And so it was great that you picked up on it first. And then all of a sudden I'm like, I know this guy. And then all of a sudden it connected the dots and the little light bulb went off and it's like, yes, this guy.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Super small world. And, also kind of fun to meet that way. And then our wives were both next to us as well. So we got to kind of, I was just emailing with this guy. So anyway, funny story. And maybe it's funny in our mind. Hopefully the people listening think it's funny too.
Oh yeah. It just shows how Boise is such a big, small town.
Yeah.
Or a small, big town, however you want to look at it.
Yeah.
But a lot of our circles just intertwine, and it was a very serendipitous meeting, and I liked it. It was a cool kickoff to getting to know each other, and then later on having our actual one-on-one meeting that we'd scheduled. So,
which also was great. Just was in the wrong place initially, and then I went to the new office. So,
oh yes, I remember that. Yeah, you gotta love Google, where you change your address on there, and they're like, I don't know if you really changed your address. You need to confirm for us you changed your address. And,
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we book an appointment with each other. I use Google, of course, Google My Business, whatever it is. Drive right to your office. It wasn't the right office. That's okay. You were gracious enough, and your calendar had some holes, and so we picked up. And
Google has since fixed that. Okay. Now, if you use Google Maps, or at least on my phone, if you use Google Maps, it takes you to the correct office. They have finally gotten that updated.
Yeah, Google My Business is no joke. If I'm going to look at Amy over here, she'll make some eye contact with me. We really struggled to get Google My Business to be accurate and effective for us. So when it's right, it's good. When it's not, it's a total pain.
Oh yeah.
Well, hey, we had a great conversation in your office, and that's really what kind of set the tone for this conversation here. And I don't want to just repeat everything we already talked about, but ideally we would have had a camera and a microphone in that room, right?
That was a good meeting.
And that's the beauty of this type of medium here is we're basically pretending that we're in your office or in a coffee shop or whatever that looks like, and having a conversation. And then we get to record it and share it. And hopefully it creates value for you and your business, and then for the guests that are paying attention, if there are any, right?
Yeah. I look at it like this. If we make the difference for one person, it was worth the podcast.
I love it.
It's an important enough subject that it really needs to be out there for the masses. But even if it's not with the masses and just with 1, 2, 10 people, it's worth it.
I love that. Cool. Well, oftentimes the best place to start with storytelling is kind of at the beginning. So you didn't grow up and become an estate attorney overnight, right? And
nope. I actually went to law school very late in my
really?
Yeah, I was in my 30s.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's definitely unique.
Yeah.
So why don't you start us out at the beginning, when we don't have to have your full life story, but are you one of the very few Idaho natives that we have around here?
Yes and no. Okay, so I have a unique family situation in which I am adopted onto one side of the family. My biological mom had passed away. My dad remarried. My stepmom adopted me when I was 6. So I have 3 branches of my family.
Okay.
She is multi-generational Idahoan. I could try and count in my head how many generations back. She grew up in Caldwell. I was born in Oregon, moved here by the time I was 6 at that time.
Okay.
And she adopted us, my brother and I. And so I've been here ever since I was 6. So do I have generational Idahoan stuff? Yes. Have I lived in Idaho basically my whole life? Yes. Was I born in Idaho? No.
It's fair.
So
Still longer than most.
yeah.
So
And with the multi-generational stuff, it's kind of one of those quasi,
You're a young guy. You've been here 20 years.
Yeah.
It's perfect. Okay. So effectively not born, but raised in Idaho for sure. Great. And then did you just wake up one day and decide, hey, I want to be a lawyer? Was that your goal?
It's interesting how things throughout your years prep you for something you didn't know was coming, right?
Yeah.
So with my mom, my biological mom having passed, she was an only child. And then when her parents passed away, because my brother and I were the only descendants, because my mom's only child status, they had, my grandparents had divorced and remarried. I got to see in my 20s, this estate plan done properly, and this estate plan was a dumpster fire. And so it's like on the beneficiary side, okay, there's really a need for this. And that kind of planted a seed of people really need a good service, and that they need an attorney that knows what they're doing, and they need family members that aren't manipulating the situation where there's basically elder abuse going on. So that kind of planted that seed. So later on, I when I left the Marine Corps as part of an experimental program where the VA was giving us our VA ratings before we got out, rather than get out and then go see the VA to get your care and stuff. Because of that, I got a VA payment while I was in receiving money from the DoD, Department of Defense, through the Marine Corps. And it got taxed, and the VA money is not supposed to be taxed. So I had to contact the IRS and say, hey, can I have my money back? Well, I went through a tax purse company that was on the corner, and they looked at it and they said, well, we don't know what to do with this because there's no rules about this. You're part of a pilot program, or experimental thing. The IRS hasn't published anything on how to deal with this. So I ended up having to contact the IRS personally and deal with them. And I was like, man, this is kind of fun taking money back from the government, And so later on, when I decided I'm going to be an attorney, I was talking to a financial planner, and they said, okay, well, what kind of attorney do you want to be? I said, well, I don't really want to argue in courtroom and stuff, that it's not my style. And they said, okay, well, what do you like to do? I said, well, I really like math, and I like equations, and I really like problem solving. Like if there's a puzzle and I can beat the puzzle, I feel good.
Yeah.
They go, well, I know an attorney that does estate planning, and they do a lot of tax heavy stuff. I was like, oh, I love beating the IRS. Yeah, let's go talk to this guy. And so he introduced me, and I ended up interning there and working there for several years. And that was really just kind of what launched me into it. It wasn't just those seeds that were planted along the way. It was the connections I had made and who I got to intern with and the path that they put me on. And it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. And I decided that's what I wanted to do.
That's cool. So in your 20s, you had a front row seat to a bit of a tire fire estate, right? And that triggered you to think, what better way to find your career than to notice a problem that at the time you couldn't do anything about?
Right.
Right. And then to be able to recognize that, and then they have the opportunities to get educated to be able to help that specific scenario, I think is pretty cool. Probably pretty unique as well.
Yeah. Most kids in their 20s aren't having to deal with estate stuff. They usually have their grandparents pass away and their parents deal with it, and they're kind of shielded from it. And it just was a direct connection there.
That's cool. I don't want to gloss over the fact that you were in the Marine Corps. That's right. Thank you for your service.
Thank you for the support.
Yeah. At what point in your life did you decide you wanted to be in the military?
Boy, when I was a little kid, G.I. Joe was the thing. That was awesome, right? And I have a great-grandfather that he had served in World War II. He was in the Army. He fought against the Germans, and he actually was captured at the Battle of the Bulge and was a POW. He survived and came home. And so I grew up with that story of Grandpa serving, right? And then I have other family members that they either were officers or enlisted in the Air Force, the Navy. Of course, we have Army and stuff. And so when 9/11 kicked off, that was my senior year of high school. And I'm going, okay, I want to serve. I view it like this. if I serve when my body is young and able and I can move, then later on when I'm an old man and somebody else is serving, then I've done my part, because there are currently old men out there that can't serve. So now is my time. This is my generation's thing. And so I joined right after getting out of high school, and I was looking, I said, okay, do I want to go Army? Do I want to go Navy, Air Force? And nobody in the family had been in the Marine Corps. And the recruiter basically, they did their job. They did a really good job of pitching the Marine Corps. Absolutely loved it. Do not regret choosing the Marine Corps over the other branches. But essentially, I've been working construction, and they pitched it as going to be the most rough and tough and eat dirt and all kinds of stuff. And at the time there was no bonus to join the Marine Corps. There was no rank incentive or anything else. And I was going to have to start off at the very, very bottom and earn my way up. And I thought that sounded like fun. I was a glutton for punishment. So I chose literally the toughest route because it was the toughest route, not because there was any payment for it. So I joined the infantry. I specialized in demolition and rockets. From there, in my second enlistment, I pivoted and went over to counterintelligence and human intelligence. And then I hurt my knee, and apparently the Marine Corps, you're supposed to run. And so I had to get out on a medical separation. So
Okay.
Yeah.
So high school kid.
Yeah.
Inspired by the events of 9/11
Yeah.
to join. Man, that story resonates with me. I did not join, but I remember when 9/11 happened, and I remember being angry. And I'm sure that's a common story for a lot of young men at that time. And you had the interest and the opportunity. And so you chose the hardest path.
Yeah, intentionally. And my dad even went down to the recruiting office, and he's like, is my son just so dumb that he can only join the grunts, or can you give him anything else? And they're like, no, he asked for the grunts. So, yeah.
Is there something in your past that made that kind of the normal choice for you? Do you remember anything that would have?
So when we would hear the stories about great grandpa being in World War II and stuff, he was infantry, and there was just all this. Basically, if you read about the Battle of the Bulge and how cold it was and how hard the living conditions were and different things. I mean, there are plenty of battles in other places that were just as bad, if not worse. But it was no walk in the park. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And then to hear him going through the Stalag and surviving that and coming home. And one of his things was nobody would ever leave his table hungry, because when he was in the Stalag, they were hungry all the time. And so it was just like, okay, he went through this grueling, horrible experience, and he came out the other side. And there's something about refinement by fire, And so I said, if I want to be here and the crucible of getting there is this really difficult thing, then give me the worst crucible I could possibly have so that I can be refined the most to achieve this. And I looked at him as a role model, and I said, hey, if that's his path, I want one similar. So
that's amazing. Yeah. That takes a ton of discipline and willpower, and probably craziness to a certain extent.
A little bit of crazy.
And a lot of grit, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You just put one foot in front of the other. You don't look at 5 days down the road. You look at 5 minutes down the road.
Yeah. What was your initial commitment timeline? 4 years?
Yeah. Initial contract was 4 years. Yeah.
Okay. And they shipped you off to where?
So I started my duty station in Hawaii, Kaneohe Bay. Then we went to Okinawa, Japan, Camp Hansen. It jumped on the USS Essex, which is at the time it was part of the 31st MEU. There's actually a show right now about the 31st MEU online. Okay. On a streaming service. And anyhow, so we went around Asia and dealt with that. I got to go to Guam, Korea, Thailand, Singapore, Australia, and got to really see the world. We were on an anti-Pacific terrorist type react force. There was different recruitment things going on down in the islands down there. And so anyhow, we were thwarting different things. And then after that, went back to Hawaii, ended up marrying someone I knew from high school. We went to different high schools, we went to the same church. She came back to Hawaii with me, my wife, Mindy, amazing lady. And we're actually coming up on 21 years in just a few days. Anyhow, then they shipped me off to Afghanistan. And so I served over there, came back, re-enlisted, and got shipped to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina.
Okay. So you got to see a ton of the Pacific.
Yeah.
Which is cool. And somehow avoided the Middle East until the very end of your first...
Of my first enlistment, yeah. So what it is that the Marine Corps has a worldwide obligation. Even though at the time we had 2 wars going on, we had Iraq and Afghanistan, right? We still have to have a react force that what if something kicks off in a foreign country and we need to go in and secure our embassy, or we need to go in and help U.S. citizens exit a country that is either under civil war or something else, or what if we're at war with a third country?
Yeah.
And so these Marine Expeditionary Units, the MEUs, we were the 31st MEU, they basically patrol the waters, and they've got X number of thousand Marines just ready to beach land, go in by helicopter, hovercraft, boat, etc., and storm the beachhead, establish a forward operating base, and then bring in reinforcements. And that's what I was on, was that React Force. So
And you never had to do that.
didn't have to do that. We didn't have to take over another country. So basically we were training with foreign militaries, whether we were training with the Aussies or we were training with the Japanese, or we did training with South Korea and Thailand. It was a lot of fun getting to interact with them. Very rarely did we at the lower level have interpreters. And so a lot of times it was just hand signals and things, and trying to point at something and say what it was. And then, okay, I got the basics of what we're discussing. Now let's work together. And so it was really cool to get to interact with them. But yeah, I didn't have to do any military operations other than preventive by show of force stuff.
That's cool. So how many years would you say that was it like 3 years that you avoided the Middle East of your first 4?
First 2 years, I didn't go to the Middle East. And then basically the beginning of my third year, I went over there to Afghanistan.
So a pretty cool military experience, getting to avoid conflict for the first couple years at least.
Yeah.
Right?
So we call them libo ports. You get to go out in town and experience a foreign country. So I got to go into Korea and go shopping and have fun there. It wasn't just training. I got to go into Thailand and go there were these little bot buses. It's like a Datsun truck with a metal roof over the back of the bed of the truck. And that's where you sit and you get to ride along and experience the local culture. And so I got to experience local culture in all those different places. And it was a lot of fun. It wasn't just training and eating dirt the entire time like my recruiter had promised me.
Yeah.
So,
well, I'm sure there was some eating dirt.
Oh, we totally ate dirt. In Australia, the most, I think. So,
oh, nasty.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I turned on the original series, the original season of Fear Factor last night for my 10-year-old and my 13-year-old. And the first thing they had to do was get drug on the ground through the mud behind 2 horses, which is crazy. And then it's funny how TV's changed in the last 15 years. This is, I think, 2011 is when the first season of Fear Factor came out. I'm only mentioning this because the second thing they had to do was eat a martini glass full of worms.
Oh, yeah.
And worms are much worse than dirt. But still, I mean, putting dirt or worms in your mouth.
Oh yeah, so we didn't physically just like take clumps of dirt and eat it, but yeah, I mean when you're rolling around it and stuff, there's no ability to keep it out of different parts of everything, and so it gets in places, and yeah, you just deal with it, But I did voluntarily eat fried bugs and things in foreign countries because that was a delicacy over there, I figure like this: if they enjoy it, I should give it a try. And some of them I really liked and some of them I didn't. And that's okay.
Yet another instance of being maybe a little bit of a glutton for punishment.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Sure, I'll try that.
Yeah. The only thing I think I ever didn't try was there was this one like a yogurt in Afghanistan that was a delicacy. And we were warned that our stomachs couldn't handle something with it. And I didn't want to be stuck out in the middle of nowhere and have my stomach gurgling. And so that is the only one food that I can think of that I actually intentionally did not eat. Other than that, if it was put in front of me, I always tried it. Or if I had the opportunity to order on a cuisine, if I was in Thailand or Korea or wherever, I would give it a shot. I was like, let's go for it.
So would you say you're a foodie?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not a food critic. I enjoy variety.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I guess I would use the word foodie, meaning you enjoy to eat all sorts of different foods and you're game to try almost anything.
Yeah. I mean, my wife even keeps an EpiPen in the purse because there are things that for whatever reason, after I came back from Afghanistan, I don't know if it was what they exposed me to for making me immune to things like all the shots, or if it was just my natural biological. I'm allergic to chickpeas and soy now, which is weird because they had hummus over in Afghanistan. I absolutely loved it. And so now I get a little bit of a problem with my throat, but I love hummus. And so I'm like, hey, you got my EpiPen? She's like, yeah, I do. I'm like, okay, let's go for it. So even if I'm allergic to it, if there's something that I haven't tried yet, I'm going to try it.
What's the craziest food you've ever eaten?
A cockroach, a fried cockroach. And
big one?
The big B-52 bomber guy. And it wasn't the flavor. It was the shell, even though it was fried, it didn't like just crumble. It stayed rather rigid and kind of gotten stuck in my teeth like a popcorn kernel.
Yeah.
Or, the shell of the popcorn.
Yeah.
And that just made it unpleasant. And that was in Thailand. I tried that. But other than that, I can't think of anything crazy. Oh, there was a drink in Singapore that had animal parts in it that were fermented, and they used a ladle to push the animal parts down to let the liquid in to pour the drink. So, sorry for the audience if you're squeamish.
Any idea what the animal parts were?
There was a snake in there. There was a part of, I want to say it was like a tiger because they called it tiger's raw. And there were just other random, large animal parts in there that you could very easily visually identify.
Oh, this was in Singapore?
Yeah, in Singapore.
First world country, right?
Yeah. It was at a bar. I think it was probably like it was one of those things where they probably made fun of the people who were so drunk that they were willing to try it. And I was willing to try it whether I was or was not drunk.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I admire your bravery.
Well, thank you.
I'm not much of a foodie at all. I'm kind of a food baby, actually. Okay. And Amy would look over. The mic's probably not going to catch her audio, but yeah, I'm a simple food kind of guy.
Okay.
Like we're having prime rib tonight at my in-laws for Christmas, and that's my favorite dish.
Nice.
So, but man, great story. I love that. I don't want to gloss over your grandpa's service, especially as a POW. Was that story highlighted on Band of Brothers by chance?
So I don't think it was his unit that was highlighted on Band of Brothers, but if you think about that concept of where they're going and they're saving the U.S. persons and they're so malnourished that they look like skin and bones, that was my grandfather. Like if I remember correctly from part of the story, there was a period of time where he wasn't able to walk upright; he could only crawl because of how worn down he was with lack of food and energy, and so. His unit was saved by another army unit and busted out, or basically when they came and took it over and they got out. So
he was in a Nazi prison?
He was in a Nazi prison in World War II, yeah.
Probably not any better than the Holocaust death camps, I'm guessing.
I don't know how to quantify that. I know that there are differences there, but I know that his living conditions were awful.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, massively inspirational that he made it through.
Yeah.
And then, of course, he was forever changed from that, right? And maybe that's where you got your love of food
It could have been, yeah, going to great grandma's. And you always had to have leftovers because that way you knew that nobody left hungry.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
It's kind of like my wife when she cooks. She never wants us to run out of food, but she does not have a prisoner of war military experience. It's just she doesn't want the shame of running out of food.
Yeah.
So we always have way too much.
Yeah.
Which is a good problem in the first world, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, we're very blessed to be here in America with all the different resources we have. Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, so you ended up in the Middle East in Afghanistan for a year or two?
So the Marine Corps deploys at a different rate or sequence of recycle than what, say, the Army or other branches do. So we were there 8-9 months in Afghanistan.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And then back to the States?
Back to the States, and then re-enlisted, and then went over to Camp Lejeune.
Didn't have enough. You had to
It was an interesting time. So looking back on it, we were really blessed. I was thinking about getting out, going to college, getting over with my first enlistment. I'd had enough fun of eating dirt and whatnot. And so I was heavily considering getting out and starting a career. And that would have been 2007, and right before the economy goes, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm talking like January of 2007, I would have been getting out. And so I actually had my first knee injury then. I recovered from it. But while I was doing that, they put you on what they call med hold. They won't let you out of the military until you get back to at least a stable status. And so while we're doing that, I looked at it and said, hey, hon, I'm thinking about reenlisting, but not infantry because I don't want to have to worry about this. So I'm going to go into, we call it flying a desk. I wanted to go counterintelligence. Ironically, counterintelligence gets embedded with infantry, so it wasn't like I was getting out of it. But anyhow, so I went and interviewed for that and went the counterintel route. And then looking back on it, I was very grateful that I stayed in. While the economy was having issues, I had a stable paycheck. So I was very blessed to not have just gotten out. I mean, I could have purchased a home in February of 2007 and then, been upside down on my house. And so very fortunate that we stayed in, did another enlistment, moved to Camp Lejeune.
So another 4 full years, or did you get out earlier than that?
So because of my med hold with my knee and everything, I did a little over 4 years as infantry, and then I moved into counterintel, and I did just under 4 years with that. And then I damaged my knee again, and so then that's what ended up getting me out. But combined, I was at 8.5 years, but a little bit more weighted towards my first enlistment.
Well, thanks so much. Thanks again for serving. 8.5 years is legit.
Oh,
That's awesome.
happy to.
Yeah. Okay. So you're out of the military. You had all the experiences that you had from traveling around the world. You saw some combat, I'm sure. You saw everything that you saw. Somehow we transition into the career path that you're in now. What happened after you got out? What did you do first?
So I'm going to clarify something for you, just so people know. Even though I was infantry and I tried getting in every single firefight that I could possibly get into, I never saw combat. Got rocketed, got mortared, got all kinds of shot at. In the infantry, we consider combat where you return direct fire.
Okay.
And my grandma's, I had obviously 3 sides of the family, and his step grandma were praying the daylights out of me not going to combat. And so even on my first wedding anniversary, I am volunteering to go out on a Army convoy as the only Marine so that I could try and get some combat. And I could not get combat for the life of me in all of Afghanistan. It would either be in front of me, behind me, to the left, or to the right, but it would never be where I was at.
What a blessing.
It is a blessing. Looking back on it, I appreciate that God looked out for me. But
Amen.
It was one of those things where, as an infantryman, to not have that ribbon that says, we call it combat action ribbon, a CAR.
Yeah.
To not have that on my chest it's odd. It feels weird, but it is what it is. And I looking back on it, appreciate the gaps that I was able to randomly fall into.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you know many, many guys that saw more than they ever could handle.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And their lives are unfortunately forever changed for the worse. Right.
Yep.
And so what a blessing that, unless I'm mistaken, that your psyche is in good shape, right? You're able to participate in serving our country, but without having to pay the long-term price of PTSD that's my understanding, at least. So cool. Well, thanks for clarifying that. That's awesome.
No worries.
Yeah, that's really good. Okay. So from the military, you guys were living in, where were you living at the time?
Sure. We lived just off base at Camp Lejeune in a place called Midway Park.
And where's Camp Lejeune?
Camp Lejeune is on the coastline in North Carolina, almost dead center, north to south for North Carolina.
Any thoughts of staying in the southeast part of the country?
I love that. I love the food out there for sure. Depending on where you are, you're either in the sweet tea or the not sweet tea area of the East Coast. And people that know that and understand, everybody who doesn't, you can Google it. I grew up in West Virginia partly as a child before I hit age 6. I was born in Oregon, but we'd moved to West Virginia temporarily when my mom was sick, and then moved back to the West. And so I really enjoy that area of country. The thing is, my parents are here in Caldwell. My wife's parents are here in Caldwell. And so at the time, we had just had a baby, and he was 2 or so when I got out of the Marine Corps. And so we're like, hey, we really want him to grow up around grandparents. So that's why we decided to come back to Idaho.
Great story. That's why we're in Idaho. My parents moved here years and years ago, and we respectfully mocked them for a long period of time until we were in the right season of life to think it was a good idea. And then as soon as we did, I was like, oh, we can't get here fast enough.
Oh, no, Idaho's amazing. I really like it.
Yeah. Cool. So saw a lot of the country, saw a lot of the world, back to Idaho. So at this point, you guys have a 2-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
And what's brewing in your thoughts and in your mind and heart at this point for
how do I
what's
make
next?
money? I went from a stable paycheck to when you're getting out on a medical separation, they don't tell you what day you're going to get out because you have to wait for the med board to give you papers. And once they give you papers, you got 30 days to get out. Yeah. So if you're interviewing for a job, how do you say, hey, I'm moving from North Carolina to Idaho. I don't know when I'm going to move. I don't know when the military is going to give me an answer. And I don't know when I can start. But please hire me. So we were moving actually cross country. We had our truck behind, or the trailer behind the truck. The military is moving some of our stuff. We were taking some of it with us, so we'd have it there as soon as we arrived in Idaho. And we're in a restaurant in, I think it was West Virginia, because I was visiting my grandma at the time. She was still alive. And anyhow, we're traveling. And he fell off of his chair, and so this elderly lady, or I should say elderly, this older lady next to us was like, "Oh, is he okay?" And so we got to talking, and she goes, "Hey, my husband and I sell life insurance. Have you ever thought about being a life insurance agent?" And I was like, "Well, I'm going to Idaho," and they're like, "Well, we actually need agents in Idaho." And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." I got a job interview in the middle of a restaurant because my kid fell off a chair. And so then I moved to Idaho, became a life insurance agent, and that was a blessing. It was like, okay, I instantly have a job. This is cool.
Yeah.
And so I got into life insurance, and then I was doing that for a little bit, and I was kind of itching to kind of get back into something that deals with guns, because I was in the infantry beforehand.
I love it.
And a job opportunity for part-time security came up. So I was moving money, kind of like what you think of like the Brinks security trucks. It wasn't Brinks, but it was similar.
Yeah, armored truck.
Yeah, armored truck stuff, moving money for different banks. And so I did that for a little bit, and then got a job at a car dealership buying a car, and they offered me a sales position. So I moved over in there into sales, kind of stopped the life insurance gig, moved from sales department over to service, and then from service into service manager. And it was one serendipitous thing after another. Looking back on it, it was, God's hand on my situation, just leading me from one job to the next. And I really enjoyed it. But yeah, coming from North Carolina to Idaho, it's how do I get a job? And it's like, here's a job. So
what a cool thing.
Yeah.
Did you have any translatable skills from the military that you thought maybe, hey, I'll go this angle or that angle?
Originally I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to be a cop, because, that's just naturally, a route that you could go. But then I had my knee to worry about. So I'm like, well, maybe I don't want to be a cop. I did do a ride along with an officer to see if that was something I wanted to do. There were other job options. If I wanted to go work for TSA at the airport, I was getting my degree in Homeland Security.
That was the thing at that point.
Yeah. Sure. And so I was like, okay, well, if I'm getting my bachelor's in Homeland Security, TSA is part of the Department of Homeland Security, maybe I'll do that. And so that's where my brain was going, and it just took a totally different route.
Yeah. So were you already doing undergrad then at that point in time as you were getting out of the military, or?
Yep. So I had started doing a lot of night school stuff. If you're active duty at that time, the military would pay for a certain number of credits or a certain number of dollars per year, and you wouldn't have to dip into your GI Bill. And so it makes your GI Bill stretch farther when you get out. And so I was doing a lot of night schooling while I was in.
So what's the GI Bill for if you were to have completed school while you were active duty?
So if I'd completed my bachelor's, then I could have used it for a master's or any other program afterwards, or they were just starting to do the thing where if you stayed in long enough and re-enlisted, you could give it to your kids. I didn't have that opportunity.
Got it.
Because I was getting out just at the wrong time. So
okay. Yeah. So you'd kind of kickstarted and done the running start thing almost, where you were doing school while you were active duty.
Yeah.
So online, I'm guessing?
A lot of it was online, yeah. And they work with, it was actually through a college called American Military University. It's designed for dealing with people who are on deployment that maybe they can't reach the same deadlines that other students could reach. Sure. If you need to turn in a paper every single week, what if you have to go 2 weeks with radio silence?
Yeah,
so
exactly. Yeah. So when did you end up finishing your undergrad?
Several years later.
Okay. So it would have been long after.
Oh yeah, long after I got out.
Long after life insurance and long after armored truck and long after.
Well, because I'm looking at it and I'm like, what am I going to do with a bachelor's in Homeland Security? I mean, come on, I'm not going to go work for TSA. I'm doing all this other stuff.
Yeah.
How do you tell someone, hey, you should buy some life insurance because I have a degree in Homeland Security?
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's kind of cool that you ended up in life insurance first because it's very related to the career that you're in now.
Yes, it is.
As I said before, like it's one of the questions I ask every customer or every client I do a past review with, an annual review with is, hey, I got a couple morbid questions for you. One of them is, do you have sufficient life insurance? And the other one is, do you have do you have an estate plan? And so you've kind of been able to dabble in both those.
Yeah. So having that life insurance background definitely makes it so I can have that conversation with their insurance agent. So if they have whole life, universal life, term life, whatever, like how does that interplay with their estate plan? How does that interplay with their financial plan? Because if one of the spouses passes away first, how is the other one taken care of? And so we have to play out, okay, well, scenario A is you die first. Scenario B is you die first. Scenario C is you die simultaneously. And so having that background and understanding how the policies work, or what we call riders, things that are tacked on or added on to the life insurance policy.
Right.
Maybe they have a long-term healthcare rider that they can access if they need to move into a nursing home. How does that play? And so, having that understanding is very integral to what I do now.
Cool. Maybe let's fast forward from the jobs you had before to law school. Yeah. How did that transition happen?
So I was leaving Volkswagen at the time. And so I was looking at what can I do with my degree? What can I go on to use my GI Bill for? And so my wife and I discussed and said, hey, let's just I'll finish out my bachelor's.
Homeland Security?
In Homeland Security, because to restart a different, I was going to do so many more credits.
Right.
And I was like, I'm only a few classes away. Let's just finish this one out. And when I finish this out, now I need to go get a master's that's actually applicable, And so then she goes, well, why don't you go do law school? You've always talked about doing law school. It's like, I don't know, it's 3 years. And so we debated back and forth. It's like, okay, well, who's going to work? Okay, so she's going to work, and then I'm going to go to school and all that kind of stuff. And so
that's not something you can do at night, I'm guessing.
I think there are programs out there that can, but I think the value of getting the law degree, a lot of it has to do with the back and forth in the classroom of getting to really wrap your head around what's going on. So not to discredit online schooling, but I really do think that an in-person law degree has a lot of merit. And so, yeah, I did it in person.
So immersion, is that the right way to think about it?
Yeah, immersion. But also when you're able to, as soon as you have the thought, ask a question, have the response, and be able to work it back and forth until you actually have the light bulb moment is very key.
Turns out humans do best in relationship environments, right?
Who knew? Yeah.
Exactly. You did.
Yes, exactly.
That's cool. Okay, so your wife was the breadwinner there for a while.
Yep.
You went to law school. Where'd you go to law school?
I went to University of Idaho for my JD. And while I was going there, they have a really unique so it used to be you had to go up to Moscow.
But not now.
But not now. I was fortunate enough to go to Boise and go through all my years of law school at Boise. So.
And that's right down kind of downtown, correct?
Yeah, it's downtown, right near the Capitol, which is great for a lot of younger students that don't have any connections and want to try and find, like, hey, is there a senator or somebody that I can go intern with or something like that? I was very fortunate to have enough business connections and stuff, being a little bit older than, all the 20-year-olds that were going to law school. Here I am in my 30s. And so like I said earlier, I had a connection for somebody who already did law, that did estate planning and all this financial stuff, business law and whatnot. And so I interned with them all through law school. And but it's cool that the law school is in Boise, right near the Capitol.
Yeah.
It's got a unique situation compared to other law schools.
I appreciate you sharing that. I had no idea why the University of Idaho Law School was down here.
Yeah,
makes perfect sense now.
Yeah, when you're interning either throughout the school year or during the summer, it's really helpful to be near a whole hub of law, and Boise really has the most concentration of law in Idaho.
Yeah, super helpful. That's cool. Okay, so you get into law school, and you already had in the back of your mind possibility of estate planning attorney. Is that
yeah?
True?
I really had no desire to go into courtroom and see who could argue the best. Arguing is just, can I argue? Yes, but I would prefer to smile and enjoy what I'm doing rather than grind through it. And not only that, but I like working with old people. I know it sounds weird, but when I was in life insurance, a lot of my conversation, I just realized, hey, this is a really cool generation that you can go and bring them peace of mind, right?
Yeah.
And so in estate planning, when I'm working with, say, a widow who just lost her husband, she goes, hey, what do I do? He was the one who understood all the money, and now I need to figure out what's going on. Mm-hmm. And you basically shoulder that burden for her. That's a really cool feeling, And so, I saw that working in the estate planning world was what I wanted.
That's awesome. Okay. Great story. I'm so glad we have gotten to kind of the present day, I think, right? Are we there?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay. So finished law school, you decided to go the route of estate planning. You didn't want to be in the courtroom litigating. Do you ever find yourself having to be in the courtroom though for probate?
Most probate, if it's not contested, meaning people aren't fighting, you can do it without having to go to court. As in, you file papers with the court, it is on court record, but you're not showing up before the judge. And so the only times I really ever go to court is if two people are disagreeing about something.
Sure.
And then we have to go and the judge is like, okay, I'm reading the paper. I'm understanding what's going on here. I have a question about this. And then you're explaining, hey, judge, here is the foundation for why we're trying to go this direction.
Yeah.
And then the judge gives the opposing side the opportunity to say, hey, we think it should go a different direction. And that's really the only time that I'm truly showing up before a judge.
Got it. Okay. Well, the whole point of today was we wanted to get some story out of you, right? And get an introduction of your story out to the audience. Now that we're kind of here, I would love to take just maybe a few minutes of your time and try to better understand, why does somebody need to work with you, right? And I think in a perfect world, we're going to come back into the studio and we're going to have more of an in-depth, maybe a topical conversation where you'll prepare and I'll prepare and we can maybe have a 15, 20, 30-minute episode that maybe answers a very specific question or topic. But until then, I'd love to understand as a layperson, right? Let's just assume I didn't know anything. Why would my family need a will or a trust? And what is it about you and your makeup that is excited to help a person in my situation?
Sure. So unfortunately, everybody's going to pass away at some point, right?
Yeah.
So we have the option of doing nothing and then retroactively after they pass, figure out what do we do with their stuff, right?
Right.
So we call that intestate, just no documents whatsoever. So what I really enjoyed doing was working with people and saying, hey, it's not just, hey, this is what a trust does. It's, hey, if you choose not to do a trust, which is your choice, please make that decision as an educated person, knowing what path you're actually going to go down now.
Yeah.
So here is what intestacy looks like. And so when you pass away, your stuff goes here and the law says do it this way. And here's what probate looks like. Here's the approximate cost for probate if you're not fighting. Here's the endless cost of probate if you are fighting. Here's the time frame you're looking at. Hey, it's public record, all this kind of stuff. And they're like, okay, I see now what the future looks like. And sometimes if somebody chooses to kick the can down the road, they made an intentional decision to not get an estate plan, and that's their choice. But at least now they're informed, right?
It's safe to say that there's always a plan. Maybe it's just not your plan.
It's not your plan. It's the state's plan. The state gets to choose what that plan is. Yeah.
Right.
And we live in a community property state. And so a lot of times people don't realize, hey, husband and wife have kids from prior marriages. One of them passes away. Usually men just don't live as long as an average number. So usually the man passes away, goes to the wife, and then now she passes away. Well, it goes to her kids, not his kids if they're a blended family. And they're like, wait a minute, no, we wanted to go to both. It's like, well, then you need a document in place to do that, because the state's cookie cutter approach does not provide for that.
Right.
Or he passes away, goes to her, she gets remarried, and then she passes away and she commingled estates or assets with this new husband. And now it all becomes his, and none of it goes to their kids.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, that's not what we want either. Okay. So then we look at wills, and the part that a lot of people don't understand about a will is that a will still goes through probate. The only difference is, instead of the court deciding what to do based off of state law, the court is deciding what to do based off of your document, the will. And the will becomes public record. It gets filed with the court and anybody can look at it. So now everybody knows who's getting what, including scam artists. But anyways, so it goes through that process. And if that's the estate plan that some people want to do, that's okay. I won't do that type of estate plan because it doesn't set them up properly, in my opinion, but it is an option. If you think about it from a capitalist perspective, it'd be a great business model for me. I'd get to charge them for the will. I'd get to charge them for the first spouse's probate, and I get to charge them for the second spouse's probate. I get to charge them 3 times. I just don't think that that's right as far as that goes.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
So then we go to trust, and trusts don't go through probate.
Right.
So now we're not paying when the first spouse dies. We're not paying when the second spouse dies. Sometimes they do hire an attorney to help out, but you really should have a playbook of how to do it so that you're basically just hiring an attorney for the nuances, not for the entire thing. So if you have a trust, you really should have an outline of what's going on. Anyhow, the trust avoids probate. So now it's not public. But what I really like about trust is it helps the family move on after death a lot sooner. Probate cannot move faster than 6 months. And if you think about it, when someone passes, you want to mourn and be able to have closure.
Yeah.
If you're still probating their estate, you don't really get closure until the probate is over.
Right.
So you've drug out closure for 6 months.
Yeah.
On a trust, you can deal with their assets instantaneously. And so really that the family support element of it is what's really important to me on the trust. It's not the money, it's the family connection.
Right.
But then, so we have the trust going on. Some trusts that I see come through my office that have been drafted a lot of times in states where they're just trying to avoid probate, and that's all the trust is designed to do. And then they move to Idaho. The trust dissolves as soon as as soon as the parents die, and then it goes to the kids, and they just put it in their personal bank account. The problem is the money gets exposed to third parties. So if that kid gets divorced, maybe some of the money goes to their ex-spouse. If they get sued, if they go through bankruptcy, something else. A well-drafted trust is going to say, hey, after the parents die, that trust stays alive and moves down to the next generation. And now it protects it from third parties and it stays in the family. All that hard work that mom and dad, money's not easy to come by. People work hard for it.
That's true.
Why not shelter it when you move it down to the next generation so that nobody else outside the family take it?
Yeah.
And so we take that trust, we move it down to the next generation. If they've got multiple kids, we just photocopy it basically. It's, mom and dad trust for Billy, mom and dad trust for Susie.
Right.
And it splits off, and now they can have their own trust and they don't affect one another and they have their own pot of money, but it still protects them from third parties. That's the way a trust should work. Some people unfortunately don't have that. They have a trust, but they don't have that type of trust. And so in a nutshell, that's kind of the basics of it.
Man, great explanation. And I think we very effectively teased out your value and your wealth of knowledge and experience. So just kind of to recap for the layperson, right? For somebody who's maybe never been exposed to this, maybe they've heard in the background, hey, I need to have a will, or hey, you should learn about what a trust is, or hey, you need a trust. I think the reality is if you have no plan, the state has a plan for you. And maybe that's not the plan you want, right? So that's kind of part one. A will is better than no plan, correct? But a will is going to be exposed to probate, and there's a cost and a time period with probate, right? If somebody wants to resolve an estate sooner, a trust might be a better way for them to do that, right? You're almost, when you get a trust, I think you said this to me in our meeting, you're almost kind of prepaying at a discount, saving the money that you would have to pay on probate by making the plan ahead of time and putting it in a trust.
Yeah. Probate, unfortunately, is kind of like divorce. The only person that wins is the attorney. Because in a probate, whoever is guiding the personal representative or the executor has to notify all the other beneficiaries that they are not their attorney.
Right.
They need to go get their own attorney if they want to be represented for their best interest. And now these two attorneys are just racking up a bill and fighting each other. And that's how they make money. It's a capitalist society.
Yeah.
And so, if you want to avoid that cost, your trust is probably going to be cheaper than probate. So you summed it up very well. And yes, it is. You're prepaying now. You're not, but if you pay after death, you'll pay a lot more.
Yeah.
So,
well, and you get to execute the plan. The plan gets executed as you wanted, right? If it's your estate and it's your legacy, how cool to have it actually play out the way that you planned for it to play out ahead of time.
Yes. And also a good attorney is going to set up a trust to where it doesn't accidentally do something that, even though it's not a concern now, may be a concern in the future. If somebody dies in their 90s and their kids are in their 70s, but then their kid, let's say they have medical concerns, if you give them money directly through a will or through a trust that dissolves immediately or intestacy, you could kick them off of certain government medical programs that you pay taxes for. But now, because they have too much money, they get kicked off of.
Yeah.
And so it can really have a negative consequence. So a properly drafted trust accounts for all those nuances that the parents aren't even thinking of, that are kind of like, it's better to have the tool and not need it than need the tool and not have it.
Yeah. I love it. Well, I'm super confident we piqued the interest of somebody listening today. And as you mentioned, even if it's just one person, maybe there's an opportunity for that person to get educated. Their situation, I'm sure, is nuanced and different. Everybody is an individual and everybody has a unique story. And so what we talked about today is just generalities, right? And just kind of very high level education as to why somebody would need to work with somebody like you. And ideally, after hearing your story, then guess what? I kind of like Andrew. And wow, he kind of identified a problem I didn't even really know that I have. And so maybe I want to get in touch with Andrew. So what's the best way for somebody to get in touch with you?
Sure. So if they call our office, 208-586-3266, they can always visit our website, andrewjohnson.law. And they can set up an appointment there, or they can request that our office contact them to set up an appointment. And I really appreciate you mentioning the education point. We did cover a lot of things, and people may start making decisions based off of, hey, I need to move forward with this. Everything I've said today, since I'm an attorney, I have to give that disclaimer that this is not legal advice. And by watching this, you have not created an attorney-client relationship with me. So please contact the office so that we can have an attorney-client relationship.
Yes.
So.
And we'll have those on the screen below, I think, your contact info or certainly in the description. So folks can get in touch with you. So, dude, I feel much more educated. It's always really helpful for me in my position to be able to speak to the different types of needs that people have just at a high level, right? Because I never want to say that I'm an attorney. I never want to say that I can help somebody with a plan, but I would certainly want to be able to refer them to great people. And so I'm grateful for the opportunity to get to meet you and to hear your story. And my hope is that we can send you some great people. And I'm hoping that folks will listen to this or watch this today and are going to be interested in connecting with you as well. So appreciate you making the time to be with us today. I know nobody's time is free and it's all valuable. So
thank you for having me.
Absolutely, man. All right. Take care.
You too.